For decades, the United States Agency for International Development, USAID, has operated under the guise of humanitarian aid and economic development. It claims to fight poverty, spread democracy, and foster economic growth worldwide.
Who are they? Well, from their own website, this is who they are. Quote, USAID leads international development and humanitarian efforts to save lives, reduce poverty, strengthen democratic governance, and help people progress beyond assistance. Well, that sounds good.
But beneath this carefully polished image lies a more ominous reality, one of political manipulation, wasteful spending, and covert regime change.
USAID is the money laundering arm of the CIA. USAID goes into third world countries over a 10, 20, 30-year period, and they use NGO structures like you would use offshore bank accounts, basically. They use an NGO, they fund an NGO that funds an NGO that funds an NGO that carries out their dirty work, basically.
Established in 1961 under the Kennedy administration, USAID was presented as a beacon of American goodwill. Yet from its inception, it has been entangled in U.S. foreign policy, serving as a civilian arm of intelligence operations. Through economic coercion, funding of opposition groups, and direct intervention, USAID has shaped political landscapes in regions crucial to Washington's interests. During the Cold War, USAID acted as a tool of containment, funneling billions into strategic nations under the pretense of development, while covertly funding media outlets, NGOs, and opposition movements aligned with American objectives. After the Soviet Union collapsed, USAID evolved into an even more sophisticated force of political engineering, refining its tactics of influence under the guise of democracy promotion. With a budget exceeding $40 billion, USAID disperses vast sums with little oversight, funding projects that often serve political motives rather than humanitarian ones. Some of its most questionable expenditures include $2 million for Moroccan pottery classes, $20 million for a Sesame Street program in Iraq, $1.5 million for diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI, workplace initiatives in Serbia, $70,000 for a DEI musical in Ireland, $50,000 for a transgender opera in Colombia, $32,000 for a transgender comic in Peru, $9 million in humanitarian aid allegedly funneled to terrorist-linked groups. Beyond wasteful spending, USAID's failures are glaring at abandoned construction projects, hospitals and schools in Afghanistan and Haiti left unfinished or inoperable, devastating agricultural programs, flooding foreign markets with subsidized American goods, crushing local farmers and fostering dependence, lavish bureaucracy. A significant portion of funds is devoured by administrative costs and consultant fees, with reports suggesting over half of USAID's budget never leaves Washington, D.C. Covert propaganda, secretly funding foreign media networks to push pro-American narratives under the pretense of independent journalism.
They want to say it's humanitarian aid, but it's clearly done so much harm in so many places. It's doing such terrible things, funding the Wuhan lab, not to mention, the whole rest of the USA Truman Show. But then they go, okay, well, it's U.S. soft power. It advances U.S. strategic interests. And so you say, oh, okay, so it's not aid?
It was called USAID, not USAID.
Right.
To make it clear to everybody, it was not an aid organization.
Right.
NGOs, often perceived as independent advocates for human rights and democracy, are deeply embedded within USAID's influence network. By channeling funds through these organizations, USAID maintains plausible deniability while steering political developments. Many NGOs have played key roles in stirring unrest and destabilizing governments resistant to U.S. influence. From Venezuela to Ukraine, from the Middle East to Eastern Europe, USAID-backed organizations have worked under banners like election monitoring or civil society support, while actively undermining regimes that Washington seeks to replace. A close USAID partner, the National Endowment for Democracy, NED, has been exposed numerous times for funding opposition movements in places like Nicaragua, Serbia, and Belarus, often leading directly to violent uprisings and the removal of leaders deemed inconvenient for U.S. global strategy. USAID has played a critical role in so-called color revolutions, mass protests that overthrow governments seen as obstacles to U.S. interests. While these uprisings are portrayed as organic movements, many are carefully engineered, with financial and logistical support funneled through USAID-backed networks. The 2014 Ukrainian Revolution was one of USAID's most blatant interventions. Billions were poured into opposition groups and media campaigns, stoking anti-government sentiment. A leaked phone call revealed U.S. official Victoria Nuland discussing who should take power after the government's collapse, clear evidence of Washington's orchestration. USAID played a central role in Georgia's Rose Revolution, funding opposition groups, training activists, and ensuring Western-aligned leaders came to power. In Tunisia, Egypt, and Libya, USAID-backed organizations helped ignite protests that led to the toppling of governments resistant to U.S. influence. In Libya, this intervention culminated in NATO's military campaign and the assassination of Muammar Gaddafi, leaving the country in chaos. USAID's fingerprints were all over Macedonia's political upheavals, including the 2016 colorful revolution, the 2017 government change, and the 2018 renaming of the country to North Macedonia. Despite its official rhetoric, USAID's real mission isn't humanitarian aid, it's geopolitical dominance. By controlling infrastructure, media, and political opposition, it ensures that Washington remains the unchallenged power broker on the global stage. USAID is particularly aggressive, where American dominance is threatened by China and Russia. In Latin America, Africa, and Southeast Asia, it funds projects designed to counter Chinese investment. In Eastern Europe, it undermines Russian influence through media, NGOs, and political maneuvering. By bypassing governments and working directly with opposition groups, USAID weakens national sovereignty and destabilizes local governance. Elected leaders who resist U.S. influence are subjected to economic coercion and political subversion. Recognizing USAID as an instrument of foreign interference, multiple nations have pushed back. Russia expelled USAID in 2012, citing its involvement in domestic political meddling. Bolivia expelled USAID in 2013, accusing it of conspiring against the government. Ethiopia, Egypt, and others have restricted USAID funding, refusing to let foreign money dictate their political landscapes. For decades, USAID operated in the shadows, disguising political engineering as humanitarian aid. But in recent months, the mask has begun to slip. In a stunning move, the Department of Global Engagement, DOGE, has ordered all USAID activities to be paused indefinitely, citing concerns over financial mismanagement and political interference. This decision came on the heels of a growing scandal that has gripped Washington, a scandal that intensified when USAID Secretary Erica Weicar was found to have ordered the mass shredding of agency documents just as government investigators began probing its operations. The sudden surge of public attention surrounding USAID has raised urgent questions. Why has an agency that once operated with impunity suddenly become a lightning rod for controversy? What secrets lie within the shredded documents? And most importantly, what does this mean for the future of U.S. influence abroad? For now, one thing is clear. The world is finally paying attention. And USAID, long the hidden hand of American intervention, may no longer be able to operate in the shadows. Please like, subscribe, and watch my other videos to learn what they don't want you to know.